Welcome to this X2 CRM training session. My name is Tom Carroll, and I'll be your trainer for this particular session. And what we're going to be covering today, this is actually session one of the basic user training series. And this session will be a basic overview of X2 CRM. Some of the things that we'll be covering will be, again, a basic overview of X2, the X2 dashboard and how to operate it and what it can do for you. The top bar, which you can have access to the different modules within X2. And we'll go into the grid view functionality, which is an important part of how you get access to the data that you want within X2. So let's get started. Imagine you've just logged in. You've been provided with your username, password, and you've logged into X2. You've gone through the security permissionings, and you're into the first screen, which is the dashboard. This is really the home page of the application. And the way the dashboard is organized is that on the left-hand side, there is a fixed column which tells you what actions you can do within any particular screen. In this case, you can create and display widgets and the widgets is really a view into data. For instance, we have a contact summary here. We've got an account summary. We've got an action summary. These are each widgets, and they're looking into the different data tables within the system. And X2 allows you on this dashboard to arrange it any way you want that makes sense to the activity that you're doing within the company. Notice in this case, I'm kind of looking at it from a sales perspective. I'm looking at the contacts, accounts. Actions are things that I have to, reminders of to do, things that I have coming up, new web leads that might have come in. Here's a chart that came off a report that's showing an opportunity forecast. And any report can be turned into a chart and be displayed on the dashboard. I'm also showing opportunity summary here, some lead summaries, activity feed. The activity feed is a running list of everything that is going on within the system. And this, as I mentioned, that this screen can be totally arranged how you want it, totally customized for your own view. Maybe actions are really important to you. You want to make the highlight over there. You want to move that report up. Anything you want to do as far as organizing the screen, you can go ahead and do that. Admin can also set up different views of data based on different functions within the company. Like I said, my view right here might be as a sales rep. Well, the marketing individual may have a different view of the data. They want to look at campaigns that are going on. They may still want to look at actions. Maybe they want to be looking at opportunities, but their view can be different. And so the different groups can have different screens available to them. But as I mentioned before, each person can still customize their own view of the data. To do that, you can go ahead and create a widget. If I click on Create Widget, it'll pop up a box, and the summaries all have to do with the different modules within X2. And to bring another one in, let's say I want to look at quotes that have gone on. So I'm going to click on the quotes summary and go ahead and create. And as I scroll down here, you'll notice it brought in a widget with all the quotes that are in the system. It's as simple as that. If you want to get rid of something, let's say the leads aren't doing any good here, I'm just going to click on the X there, and that's going to delete a particular widget that we have put into the system. Now, once you have the widgets up, you also can organize them. If I click on this gear icon and open up let's not do that. I click on the gear icon and open up the toggle settings bar. Notice it opened up a line beneath the headers and also these icons over here. This open book icon allows you to choose the data elements that you want to see within this view. Maybe I want to know what city that these contacts are in. I click on that and notice it'll bring it in over to the right. And now I can view those and I can move these around however I want to. The line below is to filter on these. I'm going to cover that in a little bit, so I'm going to leave that there for now. The point being is you can organize and get this data however you want it that makes sense for you as far as your function within the company. Now, other things that are over on the left-hand side, you have filter controls. These control the activity, what you want to see in the activity feed. You don't necessarily need to spend much time on this, but you can filter on to different events and have those displayed if you want to. We can cover those later in a more in-depth training session. Favorites, you can designate certain links to be favorites for you, but also then you have recent items. Recent items are going to keep track of what you just were on for the last few entries. And it's very handy when you're working on different things that going back to them very easily just from this recent item box right there. Now, in addition to the data in the middle of the screen, we also have a hidden column over here. This icon up here, which is a triangle in the middle of a box, brings up this fourth column. And this, no matter where you're at, you can always bring up that fourth column and take advantage of the utility widgets that are here. In this case, it's showing what active users are on the system. There's a clock function, tag clouds. This keeps tracks of tags that are being used. Quick contact is to enable just if you've got a name and an email and a phone, you can go ahead and create the contact just real quickly right there without having to go through any other long process. You can see calendar, see what files. And this gear icon up here there's additional widgets that you can bring in to utilize. You may want to show your actions over on the side here too, and be able to click on them and get to them very quickly. Showing right there. This will show you what is overdue, and you can then get to them and handle them. Again, at any time I can close that to have more room on the screen for the other information that you're interested in. So that's an overview of the dashboard. And like I said, the key here is that when you come in, when you log in, this is what you're going to see. So you can organize this to best help your function and to get started right away with what you need to do for that particular day. Now, in addition to this, we have the top bar. And the top bar is where you get access to all the different modules within X2. And this can be arranged. Admin can arrange the top bar how you want to see it. The key modules typically are put here where you can see them. Additional modules are under the More button. And if new custom modules are created, they'll show up here, but you can also organize them so it becomes more visible in these leading modules and available to you. If you are an admin, this button will show here and gives you access to the admin functions within the system. Profile is going to show you the details of your user information, and you can adjust that here. You can edit the profile, adding your different personal information. You can add signature information for emails, but this is where it keeps track of your personal information that you can utilize as need be. The system will utilize. The users are where new users are created and put into the system and managed, whether they're active or not. The search box over here is a universal search. Now, I'm going to caution you that that may not be the best way to search for things. It can be much more efficient if you say are looking for a contact, instead of just doing a universal search, is to go into the contact module and search this way. And we'll cover that again in just a minute. But that's what this empty box is here, is to search for something throughout the system. This little blue number here is a notification. Right now, there are no notifications, but different notifications will pop up based on things like new leads coming in. Our workflow engine allows admin to set up different automations, and in those automations can be notifications of things that have happened or are to happen. So those will pop up. And the running counter will specify how many notifications there have been, and you can see the detail by clicking any one of those. We talked about the widget column and the additional ones. And over here is, again, your profile. This profile is the same as the profile over here. But if I put my cursor over my username, we can look at the notifications for me. We can look at preferences within the system. The screen, as you saw, is laid out would be the default view of the system, but you can change different themes, different colors, set different time zones, where to start. Typically, again, it's going to go to the dashboard. We can even do different languages. So this is just the settings for how your particular view of the system is going to look. Manage apps is where you're going to go and set up things like your email account. And we'll cover that in a future training session. But this is where you would come to set up your email. Icon reference is simply telling you what these different icons mean. Help, if you click on help here, you go right to the full reference guide, and notice it opens up in a new tab, so you can leave that open as you want to. And as you scroll down, you can get access to information on the different modules throughout the system. About just tells you about X2. If there's a bug, you can report a bug this way. And you can also log out over here. But let's go back to if I click on the logo here, it will take you back to our dashboard. And so that kind of sets up how you view the system, how you get into the system and start working as quickly as possible, and have you set up for each day's work. So let's talk about going into a module. If I hover over the different modules, it will give a little drop down of things that you can do. But I'm going to go into the contact module. Notice too, the left-hand column stays steady, but it will change based on it's going to show you the actions that you can do on this particular screen. So once you go into a module, in some modules, you can create lists of those things, like a list of contacts that could be used for a marketing campaign. You can create a contact. You can import contacts from CSV files that have been prepared to then be able to come into the system. You can export contacts out. You can actually view a contact map, and this will give you a heat map of where your contacts are located throughout the country. Save maps. A quick create is, again, allows you to create quickly. Contacts help is just taking you back to that reference guide, but in this case, it's going to take you right into the section on contacts. But it's just a quick way to get there once you're in here. But what I want to focus on for a few minutes is this grid view, because this is central to how you access data within X2. And this grid view, every module, when you go into the module, will come up with this grid view. And it's a very powerful and easy way to get at the data that you want. So notice a couple of things. Obviously, we've got the name of the columns across the top. You can click on any of the columns and it will do ascending, descending sorting of those columns. And as I mentioned before, you can determine what is it that you want to see in this view of the data. Now, this particular system that I'm working with is indicative of how the system comes when you start afresh in X2. Although I do have demo data loaded, the account or the fields in the different tables and the number of modules are all what you typically will get when you sign up for X2. And so you can determine what you want to see within this view. You can organize these activities however you want to. Again, move them around, however it makes sense for you. Now, once you move it around and you leave this screen, it will stay persistent. So the next time you come back, you will have this view of the data. The line underneath, as I mentioned briefly before, the line underneath the names of the columns is a filter line. And that allows you to get at the information that you want to see. For instance, let's say I had a conversation with a Bob. I have a name of Bob, but I don't remember what's the rest of it. Well, if I want to clear filters, I can click on this funnel icon and it will go back to where we were. Well, let's try. I see there's a Ralph. So let's look for Ralph. All the Ralphs. In this case, it's just one, and I can click on it and see the details, but I'm not going to do that yet. But you can also put together filters. Maybe I want to see people in the city of Denver. So I click on that, and now I've got 5 people in Denver, and maybe I want to see just those that came from Google. So now I'm down to 2 individuals. And I could keep going further, but in this case, I'm already down to just 2. But the point being is that you can stack these different filters together to get at the data that you want to see. Now you can even take this list. I'm going to, this checkbox over here chooses these different items. And notice when I do that, some different icons come up. I can delete these that I've marked. I can tag them with any specific tag. And there's additional functions that I can do. Now, one of those is I can create a new list. Now, that list can then be used again in a marketing campaign to send out something specifically to those people that are in Denver that came from that lead source of Google. Now, some other things that I can do. Now, these are mass actions. So everybody that got checked, I'm going to do something too. Let's say I want to update the fields of selected. And I'm going to update the lead status. And I'm not finding it on here. Let me update the lead source. Well, the point being is that I can choose the field. I can add a different data to it. I'm going to stay with Google because that's what, well, no, I'm going to go ahead and change this. These that I selected, maybe it came from Facebook. I'm going to update it. And there we go. Now notice it got rid of my filter because it now no longer meets that criteria, but now we brought in another one for that criteria of Denver and Facebook. So I hope you can see that that filter line is a very powerful way to get at the information that you need. And I'm going to clear the filters here. And again, this grid view works the same in no matter what module that you are involved with. And so once you learn how to utilize that filter line or utilize how to work in the grid view, you know how to operate no matter what module you're in. So once you know that, you are ready to go in any of the others. Now, a couple other quick things. These arrows here just readjust for size of the columns. Let me click those more buttons again to go over a couple of the other things here. Adding an action is a reminder to do something in the future. Adding a note is essentially a comment on that particular individual. You can add relationships which are connections between the entities, and we'll cover those in later um, sessions in this training series. We can add these individuals to an existing list. We can execute a macro. That's a workflow automation that, again, we'll cover workflows in another series. You can log a call, log time. We can merge them together. Sometimes you might end up in what looks like to be a duplicate. You can merge the two records together. You can create that new list. You can remove tags from them, and you can update fields as we did go over it. As you could see, the rest down below, again, recent items will add to it when we do something. It will add to where we went, and we can come back to that when we want to. So, as I mentioned up above at the beginning of our training session, what we wanted to cover today in this first session is a basic overview of X2, which we did that, and the X2 dashboard, where we talked about the different widgets and the availability to customize to see the views of data that are important to your function as a user of the system. Access to modules via the top bar, we went over that. And the grid view functionality, very important part of X2 as far as dealing with the data in the system. So we hope that this has been valuable to you, and look forward to seeing you in additional sessions and diving deeper into how we utilize, how you can utilize X2 and become familiar and be true champions users of X2.